November 20th stands as one of those rare, spiritually charged moments that don't appear dramatic on the surface but carry a weight that only the chosen ones can feel in their spirit. It is a divinely appointed moment, a date woven into your timeline long before you realized how crucial it would become. There are days God marks in advance, moments where the veil between what you are praying for and what is about to manifest becomes thinner than usual. November 20th is one of those moments, a day where your obedience, your sensitivity to the Spirit, and your willingness to follow divine direction carry more influence than you may understand. God has been preparing a breakthrough for you, not suddenly, not randomly, but deliberately. Every battle you pushed through, every season where you felt stretched, every delay that frustrated you, and every closed door that confused you was part of the preparation leading to this date. What looks like a simple day on the calendar is in fact a spiritual checkpoint where heaven aligns with your steps in a precise and intentional way. Most people walk through life unaware of these moments. They move impulsively, guided by emotion, pressured by the environment, or distracted by noise. But the chosen ones are different. You sense in your spirit when something is shifting. Even when you can't explain it, you can feel the atmosphere changing, the pace of your life adjusting, and the spiritual pressure intensifying. You feel the urgency, the pull, and sometimes even the invisible resistance that tries to drain your focus right before a divine moment. That is because the closer you get to a breakthrough God has already prepared for you, the more the enemy attempts to cloud your judgment, dull your discernment, or overwhelm your emotions. But the significance of November 20th is not just in what God plans to release, it's in your ability to recognize it and respond to it correctly. Obedience is not simply about following instructions, it's about alignment. It is about positioning yourself in the exact spiritual place God needs you to be so the blessing He already intends to give you can actually reach you. For the chosen ones, obedience on this day is not about fear or pressure, it is about readiness. God does not give breakthrough to those who are distracted by every voice, overwhelmed by every feeling, or shaken by every situation. He releases it to those who are attentive, spiritually awakened, and grounded. November 20th is a day that requires you to be spiritually tuned in, because the breakthrough God prepared for you is not something meant to pass you by. It is meant to land, to settle, to shift you into a new stage of your journey. But timing matters. If you are out of alignment on the day God chooses to move, you may miss a blessing that was already written with your name on it. That is why this moment carries weight and urgency. Not the urgency of panic, but the urgency of purpose. God has been whispering, nudging, guiding, and preparing your heart for what is coming. You may not have understood every step of the process. You may have questioned why certain things had to fall apart, why certain people had to leave, or why you felt isolated at times. But none of this was random. God was removing what could not go with you into the breakthrough He designed for you. He was sharpening your discernment, strengthening your spirit, and teaching you to rely on Him more deeply so that when the moment arrives, you walk into it with clarity and confidence. The chosen ones don't stumble into blessings, they grow into them. And November 20th represents a moment where what you have grown through now positions you to receive what God prepared long before you even prayed for it. This date is not about superstition or fear, it is about divine timing and spiritual responsibility. It is about being awake enough to recognize that God sometimes moves in time-specific ways, and when He marks a day, He expects His chosen to meet Him where He has appointed the blessing to be released. On November 20th, your awareness becomes a key, your obedience becomes a doorway, and your spiritual focus becomes a shield that keeps you aligned with God's intention. There is something God has stored for you that requires your presence, your attention, and your faith on this specific day. Not because God is limited by dates, but because He is training you to walk in sync with His timing, not your own. He is teaching you that breakthrough is not just about wanting the blessing, it is about being ready for it when the moment arrives. Many people pray for breakthrough but overlook the moments God uses to deliver it. They become careless with alignment, missing the subtle signs and dismissing the importance of spiritual timing. But the chosen ones have learned that when something feels spiritually important, it usually is. November 20th carries that feeling. It carries the quiet intensity of a moment designed by God, prepared in advance, and positioned strategically so your next level can unfold. It is a day where heaven leans closer, where divine timing intersects with your journey, and where your obedience becomes the key that unlocks what has been waiting for you all along. In the days leading up to November 20th, something begins to shift around the chosen ones in ways that are not always visible but are deeply felt. The atmosphere becomes heavier, not because something is wrong, but because something significant is approaching. Whenever God prepares to unlock a breakthrough, the enemy often attempts to stir distraction, confusion, and emotional turbulence to prevent you from being spiritually present for what God is about to release. This is why, before certain breakthroughs, you feel unusual pressure, unexpected irritations, sudden fatigue, or moments of emotional conflict that feel out of nowhere. These are not coincidences. They are signals that something powerful is on the horizon, and the enemy is desperately trying to pull your focus away from the alignment God needs you to maintain. As November 20th draws near, the intensity of these distractions may increase, not because you are off track, but because you are dangerously close to stepping into something God has been preparing behind the scenes. The enemy rarely fights what is not a threat. When you begin to feel the weight of spiritual resistance, it is often proof that heaven is moving on your behalf. The chosen ones experience spiritual turbulence before elevation, and the days leading to November 20th hold that same energy. This breakthrough is not small, nor is it something that will lightly brush past your life. It is meant to shift your direction, your mindset, your position, and even the opportunities that surround you. But because it is significant, the enemy becomes strategic. He tries to drain your emotional strength so your discernment becomes foggy. He tries to introduce sudden conflicts, misunderstandings, or distractions that steal your attention, hoping you will become too weighed down to notice the spiritual importance of this date. He knows that if he can lure you into frustration, anxiety, or spiritual laziness, he can delay what God intends to release. Not cancel it, but delay it. And delay is one of the enemy's most subtle weapons against the chosen ones. That is why this period requires awareness. The enemy's tactics before major breakthroughs are predictable once you learn to recognize them. He attacks the mind with overthinking, the heart with emotional heaviness, the spirit with sudden doubt, and the environment with unnecessary noise. These attempts are designed to distract you from the deeper spiritual truth that God is aligning things in your favor. The chosen ones must remember that not every negative feeling is a reflection of failure or weakness. Many times, it is simply the pressure that rises when you're nearing a divine release. As November 20th approaches, being aware of this strategy helps you stand firm instead of slipping into confusion. It strengthens your ability to stay focused on what God is doing rather than what the enemy is trying to stir up. Another pattern before major breakthroughs is relational disruption. The enemy loves to use people as distractions, especially those who drain your energy or pull you off your spiritual path. You may notice old connections resurfacing, people testing your boundaries, or unexpected conflicts bubbling up. These are attempts to hook your attention, emotional energy, or time so you lose sight of the spiritual atmosphere shifting around you. But the chosen must remain mindful. The enemy cannot stop what God is releasing, but he can attempt to disconnect you from the mindset, faith, and spiritual readiness required to receive it. That is why emotional control, guarded energy, and clear discernment become crucial during this period. For many chosen ones, distraction does not come only from people but also from sudden internal storms. You may feel waves of sadness, frustration, or mental exhaustion without any clear explanation. These emotional surges are often triggered because the enemy is trying to disturb your peace right when you need to be most spiritually grounded. But emotional turbulence is not a sign to collapse, it is a sign to prepare. God often allows you to feel the pressure because he wants you to grow into the strength required to handle the breakthrough he is sending. The enemy's attacks are simply confirmation of what heaven is up to. There is also a pattern of unexpected delays, setbacks, or minor inconveniences that seem to stack up in the days before November 20th. These are designed to wear down your patience. But patience during spiritual warfare is one of the strongest forms of obedience. When you remain steady despite the distractions, you show heaven that you are ready for what God is positioning you to receive. The enemy hopes you will get frustrated, lose focus, or begin to doubt the timing of God, but the chosen ones understand that spiritual turbulence before breakthrough is a normal part of the journey. What makes November 20th so significant is not just the breakthrough but the spiritual battle that surrounds it. The attacks increase because what is coming will elevate you, shift you, heal you, and reposition you. The enemy fears what you will become once this breakthrough lands. He fears the clarity, the confidence, the authority, and the momentum that will follow. That is why he tries to distract you before you reach this moment. The chosen must understand that the fight intensifies because the blessing is already in motion. When breakthrough approaches, the enemy cannot take it away, he can only attempt to make you unaware or unprepared to receive it. On November 20th, the spiritual atmosphere shifts in your favor, and the enemy knows it. That is why the days leading into it feel heavier, more emotional, and more distracting than usual. You are meant to be alert, grounded, and spiritually sensitive so you do not miss the divine release God has aligned for your life. Your alignment, discipline, and willingness to follow God's prompting on November 20th become the defining elements that separate delay from elevation. This moment is not about routine spirituality or passive belief, it is about intentional positioning. When God sets aside a day for movement, He looks for those who are spiritually awake enough to recognize the significance. Many people pray for breakthrough, but not everyone positions themselves to receive it. The chosen ones understand that obedience is not just about following rules, it is about clarity, timing, and spiritual readiness. November 20th holds a divine assignment, and the way you align yourself spiritually, mentally, and emotionally on this day becomes the key that opens doors you have been standing in front of for far too long. Alignment means more than simply hoping. It means tuning your spirit to God's voice and resisting everything that drags you off course. It means recognizing when God is pulling you towards silence, reflection, prayer, or separation from distractions. It means honoring the internal nudges that lead you away from noise and closer to His presence. God doesn't elevate the distracted, He elevates the disciplined. And the discipline required on November 20th is not harsh or overwhelming, it is intentional, focused, and rooted in purpose. When God brings breakthrough, He brings it to those who have learned how to carry it. That readiness is shaped through discipline, and that discipline becomes the very thing that keeps you aligned on the day He moves. There's a spiritual precision to divine timing. When God chooses a moment, it's because the atmosphere, the season, and the conditions around you have aligned with what He wants to release. Your part in that timing is to be spiritually responsive rather than spiritually passive. When you feel God pulling you closer, when you sense the weight of the moment, when you notice unusual clarity or unusual warfare, these are signals that heaven is preparing something significant. Your job is to position yourself with intention. November 20th carries that kind of spiritual weight. It is not just a date, it is a threshold. What you step into depends on how you show up. God does not operate randomly. Every breakthrough has a pathway. Every blessing has a preparation season. Every promotion has a requirement. You have felt the signs leading to this moment, those moments of sudden clarity, the sense of urgency in your spirit, the internal shift that tells you something is coming. These things do not happen by accident. They are spiritual indicators that the atmosphere around you is aligning. But alignment without willingness leads nowhere. You must be willing to move the way God directs, even if it's inconvenient, even if it requires sacrifice, even if it pulls you out of your comfort zone. Breakthrough is not passive, it is a partnership. God prepares the blessing, but you prepare the vessel. On November 20th, your willingness becomes a gateway. It becomes the bridge between what God has prepared and where you currently stand. Some blessings are released automatically, but others are released when your spirit is aligned with God's instruction. There are moments when God waits for your obedience to unlock what has been held back. Not because He's withholding, but because breakthrough requires your participation. He wants you to be alert, grounded, clear-minded, and spiritually in tune. He wants you to step into the moment with intention rather than stumbling into it by accident. When the chosen ones understand this, they move differently. They prepare differently. They listen differently. They walk into divine dates with awareness. As November 20th approaches, God is not simply asking you to hope, He is asking you to align. He is asking you to protect your mind from negativity, your spirit from distractions, and your energy from people who drain your focus. He is asking you to listen more closely to His whispers, to slow down enough to notice His direction, and to discipline your spirit enough to stay in the posture required for breakthrough. This is not about perfection. God never demands perfection. It's about presence. It's about being spiritually present enough to receive what He has prepared. When He moves, He wants you to be in position. This date marks the moment where the chosen ones separate themselves from the crowd. Not by superiority, but by obedience. Not by pride, but by awareness. November 20th is a spiritual filter. Those who are distracted, careless, or spiritually disconnected will walk past it without realizing what they missed. But those who are aligned, those who understand the weight of the moment, will walk into blessings that feel sudden but were actually prepared long ago. This is why God trains the chosen ones with discipline. This is why He pulls them into seasons of spiritual sensitivity. This is why He teaches them how to recognize divine timing. Because breakthrough belongs to those who are ready for it. Your next level does not come by chance. It comes through spiritual alignment. It comes through the willingness to obey even when you don't fully understand. It comes through the discipline to maintain focus when the enemy tries to distract you. It comes through the ability to sense when God is shifting the atmosphere. November 20th is one of those days where everything you've learned, endured, overcome, and matured through meets the moment God has prepared. It is a day where alignment becomes elevation. It is a day where discipline becomes breakthrough. It is a day where willingness becomes the key that unlocks what you've been praying for. And if you honor this moment, if you stay aligned, if you follow the prompting of God, you will step into a level that reflects everything He has prepared for your life.